Hi everyone! Be Well Rebellion, episode 9. Today is going to be a bit of a rant. I'm going to tell you how I really feel. Last night, I was thinking about all the interactions I've had with, Western medicine. All the times I've been poked and prodded against my will. And I thought about the time that I had to get stitches in my eyebrow and they wanted to hide the scar, so they stitched it into my eyebrow, pulled it down a little bit, and now my one eyebrow sits weird. I think about the time I was given an experimental chickenpox vaccine at age 12 and then randomly had the sudden onset of severe exercise-induced asthma after that. And that was age 12. And I then went on, when I was 24, 24, I started healing that asthma. I was on 2 inhalers for 12 years. I started healing that asthma through food, taking some foods out of my diet, putting some foods into my diet. And the whole time I was ridiculed, told that I was crazy, that you can't heal asthma, but apparently you can. I think about the time I played a lot of sports and I had really painful knees, and they didn't say, well, why don't you take a season off? Instead it was, why don't you take 1,000 milligrams of ibuprofen every day? Because who needs a stomach lining, right? who needs a liver health? Just show up for that game. Take that Tylenol. Or I think about the time I got my tooth knocked out. I was wearing a mouth guard and it was during a lacrosse game. And I could have lost practice. I could have lost all front 4 teeth. They told me my tooth got kind of shoved up into my mouth. Part of my tooth fell out, my front tooth. And instead of, removing what was left and making it something I could handle, instead I have a little piece of tooth there that I have to put a crown on. And if it happens to fall out, I can't just get this cheap little pop-in thing replaced. I have to pay thousands of dollars as a replacement. So they made me a customer for life there. And I think about the time I got knee surgery, and it was an arthroscopy, because I was 17 playing sports all year round, and my body was just rejecting that schedule, and it hurt. And so I got surgery, and they were basically well, you had a lot of wear and tear, so we cut some tendons and we did, just kind of bucked around in there. It's probably gonna need a knee replacement if you keep on playing lacrosse like if you play in college. So thanks, doctors. And now as an adult, 20 years later, still, if I'm sitting like this, cross-legged, and I lean forward too far, my knee will dislocate. Isn't that great? So yeah, fuck you, Western medicine. I have not had a single good interaction with you. I've watched my dad battle cancer 3 times, and the lack of wisdom in his care, just letting him eat whatever, inject whatever, it's crazy. And it really, last night when I was thinking about it all, I was getting so fired up, and I'm a birth doula, childbirth educator, and I think about all the ways that Western medicine has hijacked and commercialized or, commodified birth and scared women into subjecting themselves to things that they really might not have needed. I think about Western medicine, in my first birth, with my first pregnancy, actually, I had a weird, positives in the first one. I actually didn't test positive until I was 7 or 8 weeks along. It was strange. And when I finally did, I said to my doctor, I've been taking maca root to regulate my hormones. Like, can I still take it during pregnancy? And he said, I don't know anything about that, so I suggest you stop taking it immediately. And I was like, okay, so you're ignorant, so you're going to recommend something as severe as stopping something immediately, which, as we all know, like the body sometimes doesn't do well with that. So I don't know. I'm really just going off on a tangent of silly little stories, but my whole point that I was thinking about last night is how fucking enraged I am, and how enraged probably so many people are. I mean, there's so many situations where I don't even think people realize that they were abused by the medical system. Attending births, like I've seen active management of the third stage of labor, which is after the baby comes. It's like the after birthing period. And I've seen, we're just gonna tug a little on this placenta, get it out for you. The next thing you know, doctor tugged enough to detach the cord from the placenta. Oh shit, now we need to reach in like a rock star and get it out. That's malpractice. Like, cutting the cord too early and risking a baby's blood levels, it's malpractice. The whole Western medicine is predicated on the concept of insulting and injuring the body to compliance. I don't understand why the whole fucking thing isn't regarded as malpractice. But with that rage, it got me thinking about how we've lost the plot in so many areas of life. I ask all the time, like, what is wisdom, right? What is wisdom as applied to farming? What is wisdom as applied to parenting? What is wisdom as applied to education? There's so many ways to do things, right? And we live in a realm where we think it's a free will realm, and we're like, oh, well, everything's valid. You can do whatever you want here. You can do whatever you want here so that you can explore the repercussions of it. That's what we're here for. So we make mistakes, and if we sit here and double down on those mistakes, we're like, this is just the way I do things, or we need to, or maybe we need more control. Just like how people thought cholesterol was bad for you, so let's put everybody on statin, or let's decrease cholesterol, when really your whole entire nervous system needs cholesterol. Fucking what are we thinking? And there are times when I get so mad. Like right now, this is kind of an emotionally driven video, so bear with me. Sometimes I cuss, sometimes I'm infuriated, actually. But sometimes I get so mad that, like, I start to apply this ferocity in how I'm considering so many things. It's like, what are we thinking? How can we complain about living in a sick, depressed society when everything that we do is geared toward making us sick and depressed? It's like, it's not a mental health crisis. It's a lack of wisdom crisis. It's a lack of whatever is fostering life crisis. It's funny because we're almost getting lost in semantics. You can't even say, oh, I want to do whatever fosters life, because there's the immediate life, right? There's the immediate, like, survival. That's not what I want to foster survival. I want to foster the life thriving. So then you have to foster that which fosters life. You're not just fostering life, you're fostering that which fosters life, so you can step back and you can actually let it flourish, right? That's husbandry. In a sense of humanity. But everybody's such a zealot right now. They're like, oh, well, a cesarean is a gift in a life-saving situation. Should it account for half of births or 30% of births or whatever? No, that's not evidence-based care. All these practices, I'm sorry, I'm kind of ranting again, so bear with me. All these practices that we employ, none of it's based on an evidence. So what are we thinking? We have sicker... Isn't this generation a generation of children that's like sicker than the generation that came before it? Isn't that a heads up? That's a symptom of something? That's not human nature. It's not human nature to be infertile. It's not human nature to be like isolated and depressed. It's not human nature to hate your life. It's not human nature to wake up to an alarm every day and go work a job for something that's probably making your life worse. I think we all need to collectively repent and let's really consider deeply about our own survival, because we saw during that whole pandemic, and I use that word loosely, we saw people putting their whole lives at risk. Their whole, not just like their life or death, but like their quality of life. Sacrificing that potential quality of health for a job, and I'm talking about people who took the what against their will. There's a variety, there's a lot of people who took it and feel good about it, and that's on them. You're like, that's good. You should do the things that you feel good about. And then if you find later that wasn't actually in alignment with what your goal is, then you're given an opportunity to repent. I mean, the story of the prodigal son in the Bible is so poignant, because there is a level of spiritual success, right? And an upgrade that happens by doing right from the get-go. But then there's a different level of progress and upgrade that comes from having made the mistakes. And then I think there's even Proverbs about it, where it's almost like you get more points, soul points, we'll put it that way. Imagine you're working with soul points. You get more soul points if you visited, kind of dipped your toes into the mistakes that maybe you were destined to make, and then repented and made them better. You learn the lesson, you learn the nuance of the lesson almost better that way. And we are supposed to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. So how do you become wise as a serpent if you haven't made some mistakes? So collectively, it's important for us to recognize that we make mistakes. We make mistakes that didn't just affect us here and now. They're also affecting future generations. They're affecting our biology. Epigenetic evolution suggests that factors outside of us affect our evolutionary state, our emotional state, our spiritual state, our physical state, whatever. In fact, when it comes to the mother wound, which I talk about a lot of people think that I'm blaming women, but I'm not. I'm blaming a paradigm. I'm blaming a dynamic. But the mother wound, really, when it comes down to it, is having a stressful mother. We co-regulate with our mamas. It just is what it is. Whether you want to, no matter. I'm not talking about that. So we co-regulate with our mothers. And our nervous systems basically create these baseline, stress levels that we carry through our lives. So a stressed out mother for a brand new baby, that baby's co-regulating with a stressed out mother. And that is a baseline for that baby. And that baby has to do a whole lot of soul searching, right? And deep shadow work to get that nervous system back to where it is supposed to be for an ordained human being. You got to do a lot of soul searching later and a lot of work. And that to me is the mother wound. And that mother wound is biological. I mean, it affects your auric field. It affects your nervous system. It affects your spiritual state. It affects your emotional state, of course. And, people want to think that I'm blaming mothers because mothers are making so many shitty choices. But, I mean, a mother wound is generally, in my humble opinion, the evil mothers notwithstanding, because there are evil, shitty mothers out there that really don't have good intentions. But for the ones that do, mother wounds are often actually predicated by the environment. No woman wants to hurt her baby. No woman wants to be a not safe place for her baby. So if she's not able to regulate, she's not getting the support she needs. And that manifests in so many ways. I mean, a lack of a village, some men, or should I say males, because I've said in another video, I don't even think they're the same species. I think a lot of men and women are actually co-operating with males and females and then wondering why these males and females are doing them so dirty. It's because you're working with different programs, different operating systems. I've said before, not everybody that looks human is human. that's my take on it. We can explore that more in some other videos, but really I want to talk about the dynamic of repentance collectively here, and really just ask again, what are we doing? I mean, everybody, I don't care what kind of ideologies you hold on to or identify with, but so many people are able to put their humanity in front of their isms enough to recognize that, like, the powers that be aren't your friends. And so then they're getting, lost in the semantics of why, who's at fault, what we can do about it. And everybody's got, I get, again, these isms. And then they're putting these isms back in front of their humanity and putting these isms ahead of their critical thinking. And they're thinking, well, the answer is socialism, or the answer is ism, whatever ism it is that you want to push. The answer is a collective repentance and course correction as a result of a cleansing process. We are asking for judgment. I mean, we have done so many things. We have insulted our endocrine system so much that, women grow facial hair, that men have hips and boobs now. It's all, blending together. And instead of not doing the things that collectively make us infertile, we're fucking putting ads online to single mothers like myself who are maybe not in the best financial situations, but we'll get there. And they're saying, hey, why don't you sell us access to your wombs? At first, when I thought about surrogacy, I was like, yeah, this beautiful thing. I mean, I'm sure there's some kind of soul, like there's something beautiful there, a child having an entrance into the world through a loving, willing surrogate to a loving, willing family. I'm not really like, that's a feel good, warm, fuzzy. And in a perfect world, I think that would be such a beautiful gift to give. In the world that we find ourselves in right now, I just think that everybody should very, very, very much right now think about who is getting access to your womb and what their intentions are. When you have a baby, whether it's your baby or not, you share blood with it. You share energy. You share, like, that baby's DNA is going to reside inside you. That DNA came from someone else, two other parents, unless of course you use your eggs. But my point is, like, I know that if you're a childbearing age like myself, like, you're probably getting some kind of ads targeting your womb. Are you not? And given this 26,000 year cycle that we're finishing up on now, is that at all like something you want to think about in terms of like patterns? Isn't it weird? Also at a time when, like, China, I think I just read China is like ready for artificial wombs starting in 2026, I think it was. Is that right? What's going on there, do you think? Let's just, I mean, like, I'm not going to give you answers or tell you to do things one way or another, but, like, what's going on there, do you think? We have become a society that, like, our babies are so precious, and we have totally normalized taking them away from their mommies, like, as soon as possible. As soon as possible. And then when the moms have, like, feelings about it, they're like, well, this postpartum depression, or, attachment, you're just really attached. And it's like, we're supposed to be attached. That's how we actually bond. We're supposed to be attached. there's such a profound lack of wisdom here. It's infuriating, and it's also maddening, because when you try to talk about it, we have so many zealots in the conversation that you say to somebody, oh, parasite cleansing. Let's go with parasite cleansing. You're gonna or biohacking. I don't even know where to begin. Okay, so you say to somebody, hey, if you do this little thing, it actually enhances your direct experience in some way. And then most of our collective is like, oh, if I do this little thing, well, I'm gonna do this little thing more and more and more, and I'm gonna do it all the time. I'm gonna make a lifestyle out of it. In fact, I'm gonna make an identity out of it. And then it's like, no, that was never its intention. It's kind of like astrology too. Like, my daughter is really into astrology, and it's been so fascinating and enlightening about like the different energies that everyone in our family is working with. And I just love listening to her perception of dynamics that we play out and why, as it pertains to our astrological birth charts, right? Vedic astrology and Western astrology and the Chinese zodiac. She was into it all. Now, one of the things I always tell her is like, we have to make sure that these don't become self-fulfilling prophecies. These are starting points for us to navigate our walk, right? So I have, a lot of Gemini and Sagittarius in my chart. That doesn't mean that I get the pass to behave like a blunt, flighty, whatever. I'm not a blowtorch. That is for me to learn from, right? To know myself and then operate accordingly in my environment. What are my strengths and weaknesses and that kind of stuff. So it's not, and then as soon as we take it to, oh, well, I'm an asshole because I'm a Gemini, like, you've lost the plot. You have lost the plot about why you're here and why that thing was given to you. And it's funny because people read the book of Enoch and they're like, oh no, everything that was given to humans in the book of Enoch is so bad, right? Don't do any of it. We're here, thrust into it. Whether we like it or not, all these things are things that are available to us. So how are you gonna incorporate them into your tool bag of spirituality and physical life? It's not, you're not called, it's funny too, because so many people just cling to their own disempowerment, whether it's giving the energy away to their doctors or giving the energy away to like their pastors. Like, yoga. We'll talk about yoga. Let's talk about how Christians perceive yoga. So I understand that certain positions, certain patterns in the body, certain chants, certain words, certain vibrations beget certain types of energies, can be beneficial or not beneficial. I understand that. I understand that a lot of people are doing things that they're actually not really educated on, and that's a dangerous thing. That said, I have 4 children, and I have seen all 4 of them as toddlers do yoga moves. They don't call the moves anything in particular. They're not chanting in a certain way. I have seen breath work. I have seen each of them play with their breath. I have seen them roll their bellies. I've seen them suck it in. I have seen them play with their breath and how it affects their nervous state. So to take those breathes and stretches and those symbols or whatever, things that inherently are part of being human, breathing and stretching, and then to vilify them as if they are demonic portals, we've really fucking lost the plot, have we not? You gonna vilify anything on my body, in my body, that comes to me organically and tell me that it's actually just a byproduct of collective iniquity for millennia, and that I need to rebuke it within myself? Like, you've lost the plot. The Most High made me. And everything that I can do and everything that I am is tools presented for my make and model so that I can navigate this realm and have whatever, affect whatever change I'm supposed to affect. Just, it's fucking crazy. You can't even be human. You can't even be human. Like, you literally can't even be human in this society anymore. Because you've got one demographic that says, get back to life. And a whole nother, like, we talk about, like, grieving. We talk about having baby. We talk about vacationing, where we get to be our most authentic and explore. And then we talk about coming down from those things, like getting back to life. And I don't even mean coming down from those things like they're high and they're so great to experience, because obviously grief is not. But we don't even hold space in our lives for people to be human. There's like memes where it's like, oh, you never know who's walking around holding in tears and who's fighting a battle you don't even know about. We are all fighting battles that nobody fucking knows about, because there's no space for them in everyday life. And so you have to join, a grief group, or you have to go get a therapist, or you have to, take some time off work and then pick yourself up by your bootstraps and get back in it, as if bringing that grief with you and holding sacred space for those parts of life isn't life itself. It's just, we've really lost the plot. We have so lost it. Just crazy. I just don't even, I can only think that there's a group of beings that are intentionally pushing this kind of shit. And then there's a group of beings who were here that are supposed to be the antidote, right? And there's a whole collective in the middle, and it's like a frequency war, like timeline war. When really it's not, because we're all going to end up where we belong anyway, and you're either going to recognize that or not. I mean, this is Sheol. This is Sheol, right? Where heaven meets hell, right? Where the, was it the tree of, is it Shambhala? You go up or you go down, the big shuffle. I work in I live in a resort town. And when I was growing up, we'd all like get these summer jobs, right? Because you had like 100 days of the year to really make most of your money. And we'd all get the jobs being like, I want to do this. I'm going to try to make a bunch of money doing this. I'm going to work over here. And then there was always this like midsummer shuffle where if your job you just chose the wrong job for you, there was always like a midsummer shuffle around where a lot of people quit, found another job for the rest of the summer, and whether it worked or not, they wrote it out there. And I kind of feel like when we have the ends of these, when these cycle, and we're at the end of a 26,000 year cycle, we're at the new age, we're at a different time, it's time for a shuffle. And so I've said before, every thought that's given to you is not yours. Every hermeneutical framework that you're given is not necessarily yours. But you stake your claim with the words you speak and the ideas that you decide to operate in. So right now, at the end of this era, it's a time to pick a side. There's a side that wants to control life, and it's very obvious. And it's like, seemed like it was winning up until this point. And then there is a side that wants to operate in wisdom. And these people on both sides, they come in every age, every skin color, every hair texture, every location. So as we hone in on like who the enemy is, we really need to recognize that, because knowing thyself allows you to like kind of know thy enemy. And then you can decide how you want to operate to foster the world you want to live in. And when we do that, we're going to have a lot of hard discussions. And like I already see them happening now between men and women. I see them now happening between like people of varying skin colors. I see it happening now between different cultures, different religions. And you got to recognize that all of it has some kind of validity, and all of it also is being used for division. And we are really either on the side of life or we're not. And we can lack wisdom to have the foresight to know if what, like all the exact areas that we need to apply these measures of discernment and repentance. Like it varies, but ultimately you're on the side of life or you're not. And I want to issue a warning. If you're not on the side of life, if you are an ordained people, we re-energize from the Most High Creator. We re-energize from being in the sun. We re-energize from being on the earth. In fact, if you want to look at the sun as a vetting process, if you want to really like look at your life and think about like, what areas am I fostering life and what areas am I not? What happens in the sun? When you are exposed, what happens in the sun? Because like I have lighter skin, but I can sit in the sun all day, every day. Why? Because my body's not full of synthetic shit. And so I don't burn anymore. And once I cut out alcohol and once I cut out really basically just processed foods, I stopped burning. Once I got quality fats, that I needed, I stopped burning. And it's funny to me because in the sun, it really does. It burns up everything that's synthetic. If you leave material, like building materials out there, they'll dry rot and eventually just get burned up. Colors fade from synthetic things in the sun, but it fosters life and makes colors vibrant for the things that belong here or that like are sustainable, are ordained. So like, what are we using to build our lives? If you look at the sun, we have to maintain our home so much. We have to like maintain so much because the elements destroy it. Like our cars and our houses and all these things, and like our clothes deteriorate. And I know that organic material deteriorates all the same. I can understand that. But the progression of it, like the way you watch things break down and either foster and either beget more life or not, it's just really interesting to watch the trajectory of the entropy of the breakdown process of synthetic things versus organic things, and how they actually are either reused or they become like somewhat of a burden, like our landfills, right? Like all these plastics in the ocean. And for everything that we have that is, intentionally obsolete eventually to keep us trapped in the loop of consumerism, can be replaced by something else that is more sustainable. Like just think about like wiping your butt. We pay for toilet paper, and then that toilet paper has like forever chemicals in it, when really like you could have a bidet, and then your butt is cleaner and there's less waste and there's no forever chemicals on your skin. And I think that we're at a place where so many of us have been marginalized, or like just not our humanity hasn't been prioritized for the sake of instead prioritizing this like machine. And I think enough of us are like, fuck this. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be like, when I became a single mother, I had very, very little to work with. Like this dude robbed me of like everything I had, spent it all, before he left. Just kind of was a huge drain. But I still had, a little bit of options, a little bit of something to work with. I had like a vehicle. My mom gave me a loan, but I had some items, right? And I decided to sell everything I had to try to allow myself to just be a stay-at-home mother with my children still, because we homeschool. And their dad also like threatened, so I want to make sure that they're with me, like I want to prioritize their safety and their okayness, and I want to be there to talk to them when weird ideas pop into their head or whatever. And the amount of people who thought that I was crazy, the amount of people that were like, you really should just put them in school, go get a job. And I mean, I have an MBA. I haven't, I have an MBA. I'm certified in so many things. I have a lot to offer. But what is so, so important is that my children are okay. Because who the fuck do I think I am if I'm going to prioritize material over their mental or emotional or spiritual or physical well-being, and at the cost to them now, because then they wouldn't have their mother around and they would have to rely on somebody else to raise them. And anybody who's ever read any kind of studies knows that being taken away from your mother is detrimental to a child. Bad mothers notwithstanding, like I said before. I know not all of us mean well, but yeah, so I said I'm going to sell everything that I possibly have. I'm going to try to check in with my yin, see what kind of untapped resources I have so that I can prioritize staying home with them. And I know that means having to hustle later, more than I had planned, in years when probably I didn't want to be working. I'm probably going to be doing that. But I'm not going to raise children who are stuck holding my bags and then fault them when they're not whole people, like as adults. I think if more parents were willing to pay the transgenerational tab and do the work and prioritize creating a safe environment for your children, we would really quickly be able to mitigate a lot of the disaster that we kind of see coming. You raise children in love and they will operate in it. So I think what the world really needs right now is not more mothers operating in a transactional type of paradigm with the world, but more mothers choosing love. And I am shocked by how many people, it was my resources. It was my, equity I was pulling from. And it was my job to compensate later, to get that all back so that I can, leave whatever I want to leave to my children when I'm gone. And the amount of people that were so not just not supportive, but critical was profound, especially since my ex-husband wasn't paying child support. Reaching out to his family and saying, hey, can you help me get a hold of him? And them saying, why don't you just get a job? You should pick better. That's what the whole society is saying. That was his product. He's their product, Yeah, a lot of women should pick better. I fully agree. We need to hone our discernment, myself included. I was raised in a way that I didn't recognize my own iniquities. I didn't recognize my own family's transgenerational curses. I didn't know myself, and I entered into a union with, I don't even know if this person was human, honestly. By the end, it got really weird. I'm not really going to go into that here, but I lacked discernment, and I needed a brick, right? My mom said, I was laughing, I was crying and laughing, and I can't believe I stayed for so long. That how I was out of it, I realized what an idiot I was, because I knew what was happening, but I was kind of fascinated watching somebody choose the dark side, you know? And so, yeah, I stayed for too long, and my mom was laughing. She said, "Oh, it's okay, some of us need a brick." And I just want to give a warning. We're about to get our collective bricks. We are about to get our collective bricks, I promise. And the longer we keep fighting over skin color or or gender or religion, oh man, the bigger the brick's gonna be. I'm not really the doom and gloom type. Like please humble me. I love to be corrected. I'm here for it. And I see the humor in everything, and I know that it's all going to be okay. If nobody's told you, it's all going to be okay. But I am here for the challenge. I'm up for the challenge, but it's going to get so ugly for some people if you're really identifying with your isms. Your isms are going to be challenged because not a lot of these isms are actually as righteously applied as we think they are. A lot of these isms have been hijacked. So if you want to identify with your ism's going to get, taken apart, deconstructed to see what parts of you are going to remain. And the thing that sucks is like we've hit this point where the parts of us that remain have been atrophied because of the environment over time. A lot of us don't even know how to forage for food. We don't understand how our bodies work, especially how our bodies work in a symbiosis with the environment. A lot of us, we've made a lifestyle of insulting our bodies and injuring our bodies. So that's really, I think, where the pain comes in, because, we got to get our bodies back in a symbiosis. And so there's so much to that. It's not just a physical thing either. How many people do you know are subjecting themselves to their own disease? How many people do you know are in relationships that are killing them? And we've got people experiencing cancers, panic attacks, anxiety, autoimmune issues. Your body's trying to tell you something. And when we have an earth that is raging with floods and volcanoes and earthquakes, it's also raging. Like, it's also trying to tell us something. And we're not listening. We're so not listening. We eat food out of season that isn't even local. I'm sorry. We eat food that's out of season that's not even local. We deplete soil nutrients. We deplete this earth, and then we wonder why our food isn't nourishing us anymore. We've lost the plot so much. It's supposed to be a give and take. We were supposed to be stewards of the earth. We were never supposed to rape it. And how we treat our earth is a lot like how we treat our mothers. I don't know. I'm almost disgusted. We've become a culture that is so dumb. We need life explained to us. We don't even know it when we see it. And I don't even know. I'm kind of at a loss for words now, but I just want to make a collective call. What is wisdom? Because we are going to make ourselves extinct. And I know there's a concept that AI is here to, in some ways, upgrade people and let's see, AI is here to sometimes upgrade people, and that the extinction of humanity is potentially warranted because it's actually more of a transformation of the soul, and maybe these bodies don't serve our souls anymore, and we have to use a different kind of body as we find ourselves in a different kind of energetic and technological environment. But I'm, and I've said in the AI video, you can use it to enhance your direct experience and your humanness, or you can use it to bypass it. And that one results in like an empowerment, or one results in like an atrophy. Like, we're using so many things to disempower us to the point of atrophy, when originally it was given to us to empower us. Or it's like, it could be an empowerment tool. And it's just like I said about astrology, it's just like we're missing the plot on how we're using all these things. And I don't really know, like I said, we get lost in semantics. You almost can't even talk about it to people, because the words don't always even, we're not even always all speaking the same language. Plus, we live in a world of these narcissist feeders. I know that narcissism has become like a hot button word, like a hot topic word these days. Narcissism is a result of a broken yin. I have a theory, okay? Like I described the mother wound, whether you're a good mom, bad mom, whatever, you got some kind of mother wound. And what that results in is a skewed body state, which results in a skewed yin, right? A broken yin. So you're no longer just pulling your energy from source. You are now pulling it from your interactions with other people, right? Your identity is based not on who you are, but who you're not, or you know what I'm saying? And it's a really oppositional thing. So those people who sit with that broken yin and never explore trying to fix it, those people, I think, transform into some degree of narcissist. As in, they're feeding off of something other than like what life has to offer them, right? Inherently. I could go way more into it, but I'm just gonna like stop at that. But the broken yin, those people, they have no interest in self-correcting or repenting or accountability. They really just want to keep looking outside of themselves for someone to blame or someone to save. And if you're looking outside of yourself for someone to blame or someone to save, you're totally missing your role in all this. And because we live in a world that is like really lacking accountability, it feels like living in a world of narcissists, And I know that a lot of that behavior is born from ignorance, but at this point, ignorance is a choice. And you also have to be wary, because a lot of these people that are starting to look within, or they don't want to look within, or they're like scared or whatever, they're looking for another personality to copy and paste. They're looking for another savior. And these narcissists are like so diabolical. And so many of these empaths have been like, well, we need to go to therapy and we need to correct this. And this is what my assessment is of the situation, the dynamic, and your role in it. These narcissists have become really, 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 they have really well-crafted words now. And they talk the talk of, like the humble stumble of repentance. But they don't always walk the walk. And you know them by their fruits. You will see in somebody's life, you just let it play out, and you'll know what kind of energy they're working with by what kind of demons they're welcoming into their lives. And it's not just like demons, like demons, Satan, that's not like something just outside of you. That's something you contract with. So you're the proprietor of it. You're the proprietor of all your energetic contracts. And right now, collectively, we're contracting with death. I ask my children, in order for us to maintain balance in our home, we're always having to kind of decide what's a life habit and what's a death habit, right? So things like life habits are, picking up after yourself, eating healthy foods, things you want to make a regular habit of. Now, the death habits are things that we visit now and then that we don't want to make habits of, but that we can learn a lot from, right? So maybe it's a rainy day, they spend the day in front of the TV, they feel they got headaches or whatever. I say, well, that was a death habit kind of day, wasn't it? So maybe you'll want to incorporate your TV watching into a way that fosters your life habits, right? Maybe you're learning something that'll enhance your life in some way, or maybe you're taking the rest you need after having, whatever. My point is, like, you have to integrate all these things as if into your life, as if you're going to be audited on them about your responsible use of them. And if you're not using them in a sustainable or responsible way, you're creating the kind of iniquity that contributes to collective, ultimately collective death, really. I encourage anybody, like, if you're somebody who is in the working in any of these systems that kind of hurt people in some way, you are put there so that you can learn and course correct and affect whatever change. It's not for you to be like, oh shit, I've been getting a paycheck from, Western medicine, Western education or whatever for all these years, and I don't want to admit that what I'm doing is wrong because I really need this paycheck and I really did blah, 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 blah. You got to put your humanity first. You put your humanness before your job, before your isms, before anything, so that you can vet what kind of world you're creating. Good grief. All of us should be doing this. All of us. But, we're not. And when we do ask questions, a lot of us are treated like we're crazy. If you are somebody in life that wants to ask questions about, like, the systems as they are, and you are just asking questions, right? And somebody's response to you is to discourage you from asking questions, that's a red flag. They might not know the answer. They might not agree with you. They might not, what you're saying might be totally foreign to them. But if they're discouraging you from thinking critically about the environment that you find yourself in and the systems that are encroaching on your personal existence, like your personal life and your direct experience, they are not somebody you want to share everything with. They are intentionally misleading you. I promise. I don't know if you could tell what I said when I talked into my cup, but I promise they're not your friend. It might be, and when we have to take breaks from people, that might be a temporary thing until a dynamic shifts, until we get our judgment. Sometimes we're standing next to somebody and our love is covering their multitude of bullshit, and they're not getting their judgment because we're standing next to them and we're doing our best, and they're kind of riding our energetic coattails. Maybe step away for a little bit. Step away and see who really brings what to whose table. Step away. I think that's why a lot of us are isolated right now, so we can be given a chance to recognize, like, what kind of energy we bring into the table of our lives. If the table of your life is full of shit that is literally killing you through, whether it's your pesticides in your gardening practice, or depleting your soil nutrients, or subjecting yourself to a ton of frequencies that mess up your biofield, or putting yourself in situations that scare you or hurt you, or maintaining relationships with people that are unsafe for you. Like, if you want to keep on doing all that, like, you've got to recognize that you've got some lessons coming. I like discipline. I like disciplining myself because the discomfort of my own preparation has always exceeded the discomfort of the thing that I was worried about. And because of that, I've been able to overcome a lot of things. And I've been blindsided by things, sure. But if I feel in my body that there's something that I need to pay attention to, I pay attention to it. It's all I can suggest that you do. Put yourself outside. Put yourself, subject yourself to things that warrant your reflection and subsequent discipline, so that when you find your back up against the wall, like, you've got some foundation for integrity. are so many people who recognize kind of like what's going on, but they haven't put into practice the solutions yet, that when they're going to have their backs against the wall, they might feel like they're ill-equipped or disempowered, and they might ride that story out. So you have to become the hero of your own story before the world is prepared for it. So like, I want to live in a world where mothers are with their children. I want to live in a world where homes are peaceful. Like, I want to live in a world where I don't have to prioritize money, but things are provided for me as I need, including opportunities for my own earning potential. I'm just saying, like, I don't want to have to hustle. I want it to be organic. I want it. I want a really good relationship. Like, I don't want another marriage with a male who is, lying to me, or I feel like I need to check his phone, or I have to endure any of the stuff that we've called like normal today, like cheating, or a lack of proper communication, or bringing my childhood trauma and his childhood trauma to the table, and my unhealed nervous system and his unhealed nervous system to the table. Like, I don't want to fucking do that anymore. And because like, some of us are ready, right? Some of us are ready for what's next. Okay, I've done my part. I've healed enough to where of course I'm not perfect, but I'm a safe person now. Like, you can talk to me about ways that I've stepped on your toes energetically, and I'm hold space for that. And then I'm even going to sit with it without getting triggered, and I'm going to consider ways that there might be validity to your claims, and I'm going to consider ways I can assuage your concerns and still keep my soul intact. I don't know. We all need to take a hard look at ourselves, individually and collectively, and we need to recognize who's safe and who's not. Like, never again. We need to recognize the ways that these dynamics that we have normalized are profoundly unsafe for us. Stressed out mothers, unsafe for babies. That is, when I think about the Bible saying, like, when the abomination or whatever is like up in the temple, like when mothers aren't able to care for their babies, we're fucked. Don't you agree? Whether you like women or not, you came from a mama, and I'm sure you want that mama to feel her best so she can give you the best start so that you can then run with it. That's how we change the world. I've always said that healing births heal the earth. And the thing is, too, this mother wound, as I said before, it's not just from the mother, it's from the environment. Who creates all the environment? A lot of time it's the partner. We have, men are women's apex predators. They are responsible for, statistically, almost all the violence in the world, physically. Now, I know that some of those men have unhealed mother wounds. I'd venture to say all of them, right? Some way. But it's going to be, I think we can agree it's men doing these things, right? Or males doing these awful things. So it's going to be men checking males. That changes that collective. Again, similarly, we've got females who are doing men and males alike dirty however they can, and it's going to be a collective checking women checking the females, because both demographics have some shadow work to do so that we can weed out those people working with the paradigms that just do not foster that which fosters life. Some males, they consider it a win when they feed off of their wife. They consider it a win. And then some females consider it a win when they fuck over the men in their life. And that to me is not a win. Why would I want to, hurt my partner, my teammate? Because some of us are operating shoulder to shoulder, right? Trying to troubleshoot something we see in the future, while everybody else is getting fucking caught up going toe to toe. So you won't know by, like I've said before, you're not going to know by skin color. I know it's going to come down to this, about who the biblical Israelites are and who the original people of the earth are, and who's hurting who, right? But if there was DNA manipulation involved, some of the demographics that you could be blaming are scapegoats. And some of the demographics that you could be condemning are your own. Like at this point, like I'm so sick of like listening to rants about skin color, because again, like there's some validity to it, because these demographics have been infiltrated so that they can play a role in the collective, and that's the narrative, So you've got certain people that aren't people infiltrating a white population to make white people look a certain way, certain people infiltrating a melanated population to make the melanated population look a certain way, certain people infiltrating, Asian population. It's all of it's infiltrated to serve the rhetoric, to serve the narrative. And at some point we have to come together, because it's maddening, because it's not getting you anywhere. Plus, what do you do with somebody like me? Like I have like, oh God, I have this like 8 or 9 different nationalities. Where do I fit in? Because we're talking about such petty, stupid shit. Like I'm told like, oh, you can't braid your hair. Look at this hair. Like this thing. It's like a dreadlock coming. It's like a locking up after a day. If I don't touch my hair for like 2 days, it's like gorilla fingers. But if I put locks in my hair, that's cultural appropriation. If I braid it, it's cultural appropriation. Or like, I don't know. There's also, now that everybody's getting really into spirituality, which is a really beautiful, welcome thing, you've got people gatekeeping certain modalities. And like, I understand that's valid. I said in another video, like, you're not going to grow a pineapple in Connecticut and have it thrive. My point is that there are certain people that are tied to certain lands who can work with certain herbs and energies and ley lines that you just cannot if you didn't originate from there, or you don't have blood that was tied to there, right? But my point is, like, at some point, it's gotten so convoluted and so infiltrated and so muddied, the water's become so muddied, that how can you just know, who is tethered to what? I was thinking about, I read the Percy Jackson series with my children, and the second series is actually all about the Greek and Roman gods pairing up to war against Gaia, who was sleeping and is waking up. That is a whole nother thing. You should look into that. It was really interesting to read. It was super cool. But anyway, obviously psyop, but, use your discernment, as everything is at this point. Some kind of psychological operation. But anyway, I digress. So in the book, there was this character named Frank Zhang, and Frank Zhang was Chinese, and Frank Zhang ended up being like part of the Roman demigods, right? Heroes, right? He was one of the Roman heroes. And he's like, I didn't even know I had Roman blood, but apparently like his ancestors had been driven out of a certain area, and obviously like they moved, and the biology and whatever, he ended up accessing a certain type of magic that he didn't know he had access to because it didn't show on his face. So, it makes me think of that, and I also think if we're a collective in a microbiome, You want a healthy, diverse bacteria, diverse type and levels of bacteria. You want good bacteria, bad bacteria, you want balance, you want a microbiome, right? So like I think of it as a spiritual microbiome. I know that there are certain people who are definitely more aligned with certain energies. But then there are people that I feel like are here to bridge gaps and maybe access things that you might not recognize just by their bloodline alone. Be open to that. So let's have these discussions. I'm not discouraging these discussions because they allow us to figure out how to best use our collective efforts so that we can all work together. But my God, don't get lost in semantics. If people are talking about, oh, his name is Jesus Christ, his name is Yahayasha, his name is Yeshua, his name is, it's like you need to identify, you need to discern the energy. Discern the energy. And I'm not one to say that words don't matter. I know words matter. I mean, like I understand how sound is vibration and that creates matter. I understand that, but also we are getting just lost in the sauce, and we are wasting our energy being zealots for shit that doesn't even fucking matter while we all die to it. So let's come together, because it's only going to get as ugly as we consent to it getting, right? As we need it to get, so that we can learn the lessons that we all need to learn together. And if you don't want it to get ugly, then do your work. Do your shadow work. Think about ways that you do and do not foster life in your own life. And think about ways that you are perpetuating bullshit within the collective. Part of the reason I don't send my children to school is because I actually don't want to, I don't want to subject them to it, but also I don't want to support that system. How about every time you say, oh, there should be a law against that? Why don't you remember that we live in a world with a prison industrial complex? We literally have private prisons suing local governments because they're not having enough inmates. So what does the government do? They're like, oh, we'll just pass more laws so that we can keep the economy going with these private prisons. Come on. Stop outsourcing your answers. Be the answer. Be the answer. If you feel like there should be a law against something, instead of saying, oh, somebody should pass a law, why don't you affect change? Tend to the garden you can reach. Raise your children so they don't perpetuate that behavior. Make the people around you aware. Have hard conversations. Stop passing the buck off to Jesus Christ or your government. Okay? I mean, I'm saying this out of love. I love you all, and I want to see everybody thrive. I want to see everybody succeed. And we have to get our collective heads out of our asses to do that, because we're literally digging our own graves. Think about it. What do you put on your body? Right? Yeah, you can wear makeup, but do you know there's makeup that you can get that doesn't have all this shit in it? I don't know. You matter. You're not a cog in some wheel of some machine that is here to railroad you over. You matter, and you each matter, and we all matter. And we are just bickering while something is lurking under the radar. And you need to recognize what you're giving away and what you're not. I have this vision that always pops in my head with this AI stuff, where as soon as people, and I know they already are, but when people really get into the concept of the bionic augmentations of their bodies, that there's actually going to be a collective of people who stayed true to their humanness, right? So while you have one collective of people that are like, I want, the Google Lens in my eye, and I want AI to tell me about the Akashic records, and I want AI to make me super fast. I don't know what AI is going to be. I don't know, whatever, that's stupid. But then there's going to be another demographic, probably way smaller, probably hidden, probably made a mockery of in some way before the final collapse. of the energies as we know them, the final collapse of this particular paradigm. I think there's going to be another demographic of people that put their humanness before all the isms, that put their humanness before all the shortcuts, and put their humanness before all the synthetic shit and the glittery shit. And I think those people are actually going to experience the same upgrades in their bodies. They're going to be healing. They're going to be doing cool stuff. They're going to be accessing, other realms. I think they're going to be doing the same thing, but it's going to be organic. It's going to be ordained, and it's not going to come with this cost of iniquity that's going to be begotten by the AI, because when you use the AI, you're going to atrophy your real self, right? So, I don't know. Does this resonate with you? Because sometimes I just lose my ever-loving mind. Sometimes I just look at my children and I pour into them all these concepts that I really, really hope they can, internalize, because we've normalized our own demise. We really have. We've systematically subsidized it. We have made it popular. We have mocked anything that goes against it. It's just a cult at this point, a cult of zealots for instant gratification and a lack of accountability. So, anyway, thank you for your time today. Actually, I mean, and I really actually want to end with this before I just leave you with all that stuff. You're actually really divine. Your path of repentance should manifest really just as more of removal of the outside stuff than addition to, because it's all in you. You're divine. You're divine, and you have unlimited potential, and your mind is a projector of realities. You are it. You're it. You're what, we're not under this kind of energetic or spiritual attack for no reason. You are just precious. So precious. And I also want to end with a story. My dad, he got cancer 3 times. He died a few years ago. I hope he's resting in peace. I love him very much. But when he had cancer, when the cancer came back, my family, we didn't always have the healthiest dynamics growing up, but my family, that was when we were most kind to each other. That was when we allowed ourselves to not operate in ego. We thought hard about how we wanted to live our lives moving forward and how we wanted to treat people. Those times when my dad was battling cancer were some of the times when my family got along the best, and it really actually brought out some of the best times in my relationship with my siblings, who I don't even really speak to now. And if there's one thing that I can definitely confirm, is that when things get really hairy, when they get really ugly and people's masks slip, right? And you realize that there's some people here who are absolutely diabolical. Other people's masks slip too. There are people who are walking around with masks of, callousness or whatever, just so they can fit in and assimilate to this fucked up culture we find ourselves in, because again, sometimes culture's not your friend. Those people's masks are going to slip too. And those people have been carrying around the grief of the collective too. And they're sick of it. They're ready to affect change too. And so when things go awry, you can almost always count on some people making it worse, but so many people, and this is what I really think human nature is, to make it better. Only when our backs are up against the wall do we come up with some really magical solutions. And I have full faith in that timeline. That's a timeline I'm on. I don't I do think that we're going to see our economic systems collapse. I think we're going to see a lot of things come to light that are really painful to know, especially not just that they were happening, but that we actually contributed to them on some level. So, stay as these things emerge, just realize that we're in this together and you get to choose how you respond. You can be part, my dad always said, you can be part of the problem or you can be part of the solution. As soon as you recognize there is a problem at hand, and let me promise you, I promise there's an issue that warrants your attention. So, of the demographic that's willing to admit that, you guys want to be part of the solution or part of the problem? Because the solution is fun. The solution is beautiful. The solution feels good. The solution is the concept of anchoring heaven on earth. The solution is what people call the new earth. The solution is operating in wisdom. The solution is accountability. And the solution begets safety. And then safety begets a healed nervous system. And a healed nervous system, healed nervous systems perceive the environment more wholly and more accurately. And through the healed nervous system is how we transcend the flesh and do our magic. Does that make sense? And that's why the Bible tells you not to fear. So don't be afraid. So if you hear about something that scares you, learn about it. And learn about how you can assuage those fears and how you can prepare in a way that's in alignment with the beautiful future you want to experience, rather than the scary doom and gloom that you don't. So we're totally in control, and we're worth whatever changes we want to make, individually and collectively. You matter, I matter. And don't get trapped in the bickering or the semantics. As the truth comes out, step back sometimes and look at the big picture. But I think we can get through this, and I'm here for it, and I'm excited. But this video started out as a bit of an angry thing that I was feeling last night. So don't let the systems break you. Don't let them swamp you, right? Don't let them get you. Anyway, and make sure that you keep company that is safe for you, so that you can be the proprietor of your energetic field. Anyway, much love. Hang in there. Share your thoughts with me. And yeah, what do you think?